This is the TECNO Phantom V Fold, TECNO's first foldable and the best folding smartphone for $1,000 right now. It undercuts the Galaxy Fold 4 by $700 and it has the solid quality in terms of the build, amazing display, and the performance is in the top leagues. I'm stunned. I have been using this device for the past 3 weeks now, but before I share with you guys my findings, let's find out what you get from within the box of this device. There's a fold itself upon opening the box, an envelope housing the SIM ejector, the warranty sticker, and a Kevlar textured case with a built-in kickstand. There is a tiny box with a 45-watt fast charger and another box that has a USB Type-A to C connector, and that's about what you get from within the box. Now when it comes to the color options, you get the smartphone in 2 colors, black or white. Personally, I'm all about the black sugar. When you first see the TECNO Phantom V Fold here, it just reminds you of the Samsung Galaxy Fold 4. But don't be fooled, this smartphone has its own unique features that makes it stand out. One thing that I really appreciate is the fact that the front display is actually pretty easy to use because of the size you get here, which is wider than what you get from the Galaxy Fold 4. Of course, that device has a slimmer front display from Samsung. I mean, what's the point of having a foldable phone if you can't use the front display comfortably? The frame here is made of metal, which has a nice and sturdy feel to it, and the back here is made of a polycarbonate material, which has this fiber feel to it. But the real star of the show here is the Corning Gorilla Victus protection you get for this display. TECNO knew that they needed to make sure this foldable smartphone could withstand some wear and tear, and they actually did deliver. Now let's talk about the weight on here. Yes, this is a pretty hefty smartphone, but when you unfold the smartphone, it actually does feel pretty light. And this is because the weight is dispersed over a wider surface area, so you don't get to feel that concentrated weight as you might expect. So pressure is inversely proportional to the surface area of contact.
What?
Moving over to the ports and trays on this smartphone here, you have a USB-C port with no headphone jack here. You do, however, get a 5G nano SIM tray, which is pretty sweet. Just keep in mind that there is no expandable memory card slot here, so you'll want to make sure you get the 256 or 512 gigs memory option if you're a memory hog like myself. I know durability is not the sexiest topic, but it's important, especially when there are moving parts on a smartphone. You might be thinking, great, another foldable smartphone with hinges that are just waiting to fail. But hold your horses, my friend. TECNO has tested these hinges by folding and unfolding this device over 200,000 times, and that's a lot of folding. Now, if you're worried about how long it would take for it to hit that mark here, just do the maths. If you fold and unfold the smartphone, let's say 50 times every day, it will take you roughly 11 years to get to that 200,000 mark. So unless you plan on keeping the smartphone for a decade, you should be good to go. Plus the hinge here helps the smartphone fold with no gap, which means no dust or debris can get into the screen to damage or scratch the display. Take that, Samsung. But let's not forget, this smartphone does lack any form of IP rating, so you would have to keep it away from water. And opening to the larger display does require a bit of force, and that's just a heads up. And the fingerprint scanner doubles as the power button and is located just below the volume rocker keys on the right side of this smartphone. Easy peasy. All in all, I'm pretty impressed with the design of the TECNO Phantom V Fold. It's sleek, sturdy, and has some pretty sweet features that make it stand out from the pack. This baby is a true all-rounder and almost like a tablet, with the speakers and mics on both ends of the V Fold. The speakers are located on the side that houses the front display, while the microphones are at the other end of this device. Now, I must admit that I had high hopes for the speakers on this device, but they fell a little bit short compared to my Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra speakers. Don't get me wrong, these are decent sounding speakers, but not as impressive as I was expecting. Interestingly, the speakers at the bottom has a larger driver, which makes it louder than the one at the top here. One thing to note is that the speaker placement might sometimes get in the way of your gaming experience. You may accidentally block off the audio coming off this device with your hands while gaming, which can be frustrating. A quick fix here is to turn the device around so the audio files from the top half of the Phantom V Fold. Overall, the audio quality is pretty good, but if you're a true audiophile, you might want to invest in some external speakers or headphones to enhance your audio experience with the Phantom V Fold. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, who cares about haptics and vibrations? But trust me, once you experience good haptic feedback, you can't go back. In comparison to the A series and the Redmi Note series, the haptics on the Phantom V Fold are slightly better. However, they still fall short of the knock level haptics you get from top tier flagship devices. Don't get me wrong, these are still good haptics you get here, but if you're someone who really wants and values good haptic feedback, you might want to adjust the settings of the haptic feedback on this smartphone. To do that, go into settings and head to sounds and vibrations, and you can slide the vibration feedback to high, which would give you a more intense and satisfying haptic experience. It is not quite at the level of top of the line flagship devices, but it certainly helps in providing you with that premium feel. Alright, let's talk about the displays on the Phantom V Fold. This is one of the devices where you get not one, but two independent displays, double the phone, right? Let's start with the outer panel here, which is a 6.42-inch 1080p AMOLED panel with LTPO technology. What's that, you might ask? Well, it's a fancy way of saying that the display here has a 120Hz refresh rate that can go as low as 10Hz when you don't need that super snappy experience. Talk about efficiency. But here's the best part. Unlike the Galaxy Fold, the outer display on the Phantom V Fold feels like a regular smartphone's display. No cramming of letters when typing, no awkward experience, and with 1100 nits of brightness here, you should be able to see the display on those super sunny days. Well, I'll get back to that in a bit. Now let's move over to the inner display. When you unfold the smartphone, you get a massive 7.85-inch AMOLED display with a 2K resolution and 120Hz refresh rate, just like the outer display. This display is also LTPO, which means it's just as efficient as the outer display on here, plus it supports HDR content and it's perfect for tablet-like activities. But wait, there's more to this display. The inner display also has a peak brightness of 1100 nits, matching the brightness of the outer display. Now here's something to keep in mind. The aspect ratio of this display is around 1:1.15, so many apps and videos might not fit perfectly on this display, and they'll give you those pesky black bars at the top and bottom of this display. But hey, it's a small price to pay for having a foldable smartphone, right? And let's talk about the elephant in the room, the crease. Yes, you can see it depending on the angle and how light hits on this screen, but it's not obtrusive and you get used to it in no time. Now, I don't have a tool to measure the brightness of this displays here, but I did compare it to the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, and I must say that the Ultra seemed brighter outdoors, even though both displays have the same brightness on paper in high brightness mode. But that doesn't take away the fact that the Phantom V Fold has a really nice display with excellent color reproduction and fluidity. And finally, let's talk about the hinge in here. You won't be able to have the Phantom V Fold stay in different angles like you can with the Samsung foldables. But hey, that's not a deal breaker. It's a feature that Samsung calls flex mode, but we can't call it an extra in this regard. Let's talk about one of the most exciting features of the TECNO Phantom V Fold, the social media apps on this big display. If you're a social media addict like myself, you'll love how the phone's display makes your favorite apps even more interesting to use. What's cool about this is the fact that you can adjust your aspect ratio to match the full screen or to keep it as is for smaller devices with your social media apps. Either way, you get a breathtaking view of all your social media accounts in one place, making multitasking a breeze. But this smartphone isn't just all about scrolling through Instagram and TikTok. It's also an excellent productivity tool. The display is so expansive that it feels like productivity apps were meant for this device. Whether you're working on documents or editing pictures, the Phantom V Fold has got you covered. And let's not forget about the split screen functionality. This feature is a game changer when it comes to productivity. You can now work on two different apps simultaneously without having to constantly switch between tabs. With the smartphone, there are so many possibilities to get things done efficiently. Typing on the outer display is a breeze here and it feels just natural like you would do on any other smartphone. But when you switch over to the main tablet-like screen, it might take you some getting used to be able to type on this bigger display. But fear not, TECNO has got you covered with their default keyboard, which does some cool separation thing that makes it easier to type on this big screen. So we did some research and found out that the TECNO Phantom V Fold has an impressive touch response time of just 4 milliseconds, which means that every tap and swipe you make on this display is actually instantaneous. Overall, typing on the TECNO Phantom V Fold is a pleasant experience, and with a little bit of practice, you'll be typing away like a pro in no time. The Phantom V Fold is powered by the high-end Dimensity 9000 Plus chipset from MediaTek, which is no slouch when it comes to performance. This 4nm process chip is actually top of the line, comparable to the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, so you know you're getting some serious power under the hood. To back that up, this smartphone comes with 12 gigs of RAM, and if that's not enough for you, you can expand it up to a whopping 21 gigs using the virtual memory expansion feature. Now let's talk about how this thing actually performs in real-world scenarios. The TECNO Phantom V Fold actually gives you this flagship level experience with the smooth and snappy performance that can handle anything you throw at it, But what about when you really put the smartphone to the test? This chipset stands strong even when you push it to its limits. I was able to run 3 applications concurrently without any noticeable lag or hiccups, and that's no easy feat. In fact, I'm pretty sure this is the most powerful folding Android smartphone out there right now. And for those of you who care about benchmarking apps, here are some scores on screen. But it's not just about performance, it's also about connectivity, and this is a 5G smartphone that covers a lot of the 5G bands, so you shouldn't have any problem using the smartphone with your 5G networks. If you're someone who loves gaming on the go, you're going to want to hear this. The TECNO Phantom V Fold is a game changer, pun intended, and with this top-notch processor and RAM size, you can enjoy your favorite games without lags. Picture this, you're playing Call of Duty or PUBG and you're really fully immersed in your gameplay. You then decide to switch over to the bigger display here, and while you get an extended vertical view. This feature is unique to the major display of the Phantom V Fold, and it gives you a major advantage in those crucial moments of gameplay. Now let's talk about the device getting warm during your long gaming sessions. We've all been there. You're playing your favorite game and suddenly your phone feels a little bit too warm to the touch, like a hot potato. The V Fold is designed to dissipate heat when you open this smartphone in this tablet-like form. Now the graphical performance is nothing short of superb. You won't experience any issues while gaming on this bad boy. So if you're a serious gamer looking for a smartphone that can keep up with your gaming needs, the TECNO Phantom V Fold won't disappoint. You are getting Android 13 right out of the box with this smartphone, which is pretty cool if you ask me. And not only that, you also get iOS Fold 13, which is TECNO's custom skin on top of Android. Now I don't know about you, but I've had some frustrating experience with the bloatware you get with TECNO devices in the past. But I was pleasantly surprised to find out that the V Fold doesn't have too much of those bloatware pre-installed applications on here, and thank you TECNO for sparing us from that headache of having to uninstall a bunch of applications we'll never use. One thing I do want to mention here though is that when it comes to major software updates, you have to be patient with the V Fold. Unlike those fancy expensive Galaxy Folds that you get 4 to 5 years of major software upgrades, the V Fold will only give you 2 years of major upgrades. But hey, is that really a deal breaker for you? Let me know in the comment section below. One of the coolest things about this device is iOS Fold 13 skin on top of Android, which gives you plenty of options when it comes to multitasking. Every app I tested has a nifty multitasking button at the top here that allows you to easily switch between split screen or pop-up options, and also by simply pulling the app from the bottom to the side here, you can concurrently open these apps in a floating mode. But it doesn't stop there. You can also pair applications so that the next time you want to open those specific applications in the multitask split screen mode, you just have to tap on a button and have them load as you used them before. However, as awesome as these features are, there's one downside to this multi-screen option here. You can't resize the windows for each app. Everything snaps to 50% window for each of the opened applications. Additionally, trying to split the screen horizontally isn't an option here, but we hope TECNO makes that into an update in the future. And one more thing that's worth mentioning is that you can easily drag and drop content between applications if that's required of you. So whether you're working on a document or simply want to share some media files between friends, this feature makes it effortless to do so. Like I mentioned earlier, the TECNO Phantom V Fold has got some serious power under the hood. First off, let's compare it to the Galaxy Fold 4 from Samsung. The Phantom V Fold has a higher battery capacity than the Galaxy Fold, and with a 5000 mAh battery capacity and a 45-watt fast charger that comes within the box here, you can charge this bad boy from 0 to 100 in about 70 minutes. Now, unfortunately, there's no wireless charging on the smartphone, so you have to stick to the old-fashioned plug-in method. You're getting a powerful battery that will last you all day, about 6 to 7 hours screen on time from my experience on a mild to heavy use and testing of this device. So let's delve into the cameras on the TECNO Phantom V Fold. You get yourself 5 cameras on this smartphone, a 50 megapixel main sensor, a 50 megapixel telephoto lens, and a 13 megapixel ultra-wide sensor here. Of course, the selfie camera on the outer display here is the best or the better of the 2 cameras here, talking about versatility. When it comes to the camera on this smartphone, lighting is key. You get the best exposure handling and better photos whenever you take photos in good lighting. However, I did notice that the white balance was sometimes off and you had to take multiple photos to get the best looking photos. It did happen occasionally. Another thing to keep in mind is that you do not get as saturated photos like you would get from Samsung devices, meaning that the photos here needed some post-processing to get that level of saturation. There are a ton of features on the camera app from this smartphone, and you can even turn this display, the outer display, into a preview screen for a subject you're taking photos or video of. Let's say you want to enlarge your eyes, reduce your nose, or even slim your face, this camera app has got you covered. When it comes to selfies here, the 32 megapixel camera on the cover screen is definitely the one to use. You get better exposure and more detail, whereas the 60 megapixel selfie camera on the inner display is one I wouldn't recommend. recommend using. But like I mentioned earlier, you can also use the main camera for your selfies, and they give you the best photos if you want to take selfies with this smartphone. Now, if you are into video recording, who isn't? This smartphone can record up to 4K 60 FPS for both the front and the rear cameras. I'm actually recording this video using the rear camera of the Phantom V Fold, and I can actually preview and see what it looks like here. So this is a front-facing camera video test and audio test. I'm actually beside a quite busy road, and the audio you guys are hearing right now is coming from this smartphone directly and not this microphone. Let me know what you think about the exposure handling with this heavy. However, the dynamic range for the videos isn't the best out there, and there's a slight color cast to the videos from this camera. The video stabilization is quite good for the cameras, and you can even switch to the ultra-wide camera for videos, although you can only record up to 1080p for the ultra-wide lens on this device. Overall, this smartphone has a decent camera for video recording and also photos, especially for the price point and for a foldable device. I think I can deal with this. After spending some quality time with the TECNO Phantom V Fold, I can confidently say that this is a smartphone that truly lives up to the hype. First and foremost, the value proposition on here is absolutely unmatched. You're getting all the benefits of a foldable smartphone with incredible performance and a seamless user experience, and also at a price point that won't break the bank. One thing that really stands out about this smartphone is the attention to detail when it comes to the software. TECNO has gone above and beyond to make sure that every aspect of the user experience has been optimized to take full advantage of the foldable form factor. Whether you're using the smartphone in folded or unfolded mode, everything just feels so intuitive and well designed. Of course, it's not just about the software here, the hardware on here is actually top notch. To check out the best regular smartphone TECNO has ever produced, click here to watch that video. Create that day.